Yeah, I would obviously still be here if I didn't find your program.
Hmm.
I would still be alive. I would still be here.
Yeah.
But in what capacity? I don't know.
I think, I mean, you kind of know, right? Like what it's like to be in that position where you were, what, maybe a year ago looking for help. And I think just being real is probably what is the most important
Sure.
for people to hear. Sweet. Well, so let's just start, Kyle, with tell me a little bit about where you were before you started with Better Beyond Divorce.
Um, I believe we started in June of 22,
That sounds about
and yeah, and in May of 22 is when my wife told me she wanted a divorce. I was devastated. I was an emotional wreck. It was just awful. It was painful. I was looking for anything I could do to get through. And that's how I found you. I found you through YouTube. I'm, looking up videos like how to get over your ex, how to get over a bad breakup, all that stuff. And eventually I came across your videos, and that's how I found you. And she was still living in the house, and we agreed I would keep the house, and I would stay living here, and she would move out. And she was here for about 2.5 months during the divorce. It was probably the longest 2.5 months of my life. And right in the middle of that is when I found you and your program. I would say right before we started together, my emotions were probably the worst, but they didn't get a lot better for a while.
yeah, that period of time, right, of knowing that it's over, but still being in the same space. I'm glad that
Yeah,
you spoke to that because there's a couple guys in the program right now in that situation, and it is pretty brutal. Yeah.
right. Yeah, it is.
So, Kyle, let's look at the brighter side. How about now? So it's almost, gosh, almost exactly a year. Um,
Right. It's been I would say about exactly a year since we started the program, a little over a year since the divorce process started.
okay.
Not quite a year since the divorce was finalized. So we're looking at about a year.
Yeah. What has changed from
Well, first of all,
2022?
I'm not an emotional wreck, and I have not been for a while. Unfortunately, I know a lot of guys in the thick of it are going to be looking for what was the day? There's not a day; it's a process. So,
How
I'm
long,
not an
right?
emotional wreck anymore. But it wasn't like there was like one day I woke up and I'm like, oh, everything's better now.
Yeah.
So day to day is not so difficult anymore. It used to be I could get through maybe 2, 3 hours of work before I had to stop for the day or take a break and get started hours later. I just couldn't get through a day without, I had to get out of the house and just walk. Now I'm back to full force. I'm working 8, 10, 12 hours a day, which isn't necessarily ideal, but it's great that I can actually do it now. I can actually take care of my responsibilities, which is the point. I feel a lot better about my future. I'm actually excited about the future. It wasn't a great marriage, so it was in the end it was good that it ended. It was just a painful process, and I'm so much happier now than I was before.
When you were still married.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a kind of a hard thing to imagine, I think, when you're in it in the beginning.
It is. It is
But
really
like
hard,
really
especially
blessing
in
in
the
it.
beginning.
Kyle, what would you say to somebody who's kind of back where you were a year ago, going through a divorce, maybe thinking about joining Better Beyond Divorce?
Well, unless, I mean, if they were in my position, I would absolutely recommend Better Beyond Divorce, regardless of what path they take to get through. It's going to be a process. The process to get through it is going to suck. It's going to be just a shit ride going through it. And there's nothing you can do about that. It's going to be shit. And so don't look to make it not shit. What you want to look to is the process of moving forward, moving through it. And it's going to be painful. And there's going to be things that you're going to have to work through that are going to be painful to work through. But they're not going to get less painful by not working through them,
Mm.
by resisting it. You have to go through it. Progress is not linear. You're going to feel better some days or some weeks, and then you're going to wake up and you're going to feel like crap. So, for me, particularly when she was still living in the house, I had a lot of anxiety. I would wake up, like, I don't know if you've ever had that feeling. I've explained this to you on our calls before. I don't know if you've had that feeling before where you have a bad dream and you wake up, and if there's a moment where you're like, is that real? Was that real? Oh no, it's just a bad dream. Oh, thank God it was just a bad dream, right? Well, I would wake up with that feeling, except it's not a dream. And so it was like, and so every morning I would wake up thinking like, oh, this terrible reality that I'm living in, that was just a dream. And then I would, but it wasn't. So I'd have to realize the reality. And that was awful. And that got better after she moved out. Well, actually, it went away completely when she moved out, and the anxiety diminished greatly when she moved out. And then the anxiety, kind of got better and better. There's some things to be said for radical acceptance. I believe that's how I got over like being in love with her, was radical acceptance. But all of the neural pathways that you have, the habits that invoke the feelings that you have about another person, that takes time. That's not a process you can really rush, unfortunately, and it's going to be different for everyone. So, that's what I would recommend, is that the work and the time in the work get you through the process. There's not gonna be some magic key to feel better all of a sudden one day. And I wish there was. Everybody wishes there was. One thing that it really, really helped me, that I would not have gotten without your program and your coaching, was the realization that all of these negative emotions that we have, the sadness, the anxiety, the fear, the anger, there is a positive intention behind them. Every single one of them, there's a positive. Why do we get scared when we see a wild animal that's going to attack us? Because we want to live. It's our body trying to help us live. Well, I mean, all of that stuff doesn't go away just because now we don't live in the wild anymore. So yeah, if you think about not being married to the woman you love for so long, that's scary, because it's a disconnection, and that could mean a lot of harm to you. But it doesn't anymore. So that reaction is still there, but that's the intention behind it, is that you get scared so that you do something so you don't die, basically.
Really? Yeah. Yeah.
It really gets that that intense, and we just don't even realize that that's what's going on. And so the anxiety is the same way. I've gotten anxious about getting behind at work, because if I get behind on work, then maybe I'll lose my job, and there are bad consequences to that. So that's the positive intention behind the anxieties, to get me to do something to keep on top of everything, so I keep my job. And the anger was, is I want something better for myself. So it's a part of me that's fighting for myself. So all of these negative emotions, they all have a positive intention behind them, and tapping into that takes away the negative impact that those emotions have, and really empowers the positive intention behind them. And I would not have gotten that without the work that we did together.
I love the way you just sum that up, Kyle. That was your experience. It takes away some of the negative power of a negative emotion, because when you're in it, it just feels so painful.
Right.
Right? And that's what I mostly hear from guys at the start of it, is they're like, make it stop, right? Like, I need the pain to stop, the anxiety to stop, the anger to stop. So it's really cool to hear you frame it in that way. It's not so much that you need it to stop. You need to empower the positive intention behind it. And that takes so much of the pain out of the emotion.
Yep. Yeah, I would obviously still be here if I didn't find your program.
Mm-hmm.
I would still be alive. I would still be here.
Yeah.
But in what capacity? I don't know. I think I probably will, or would have ended up in the same place regardless. But on what timeline? The timeline will probably be extended. My life would be a lot different. Yeah.
Thank you for emphasizing too, Kyle, the combination of work and time, because that's so much. I mean, that just is the reality of it. I'm still hoping maybe there's like a magic solution out there we'll stumble across someday. But for now, it really does take that combination of doing the work and taking the time to do it. And that's really what you did this last year, is really engaged in going through all of the shit, right? Like all of the pain instead of avoiding it going into it.
Right.
Yeah. And it definitely, it's interesting, right? Like it still takes time, but in the long scheme of things, a year to have the difference you described is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess you could think of it like a savings account, you know.
Okay.
As time goes on, it grows, which is your progress, right? Because of the interest. But if you make deposits, which is the work, it grows faster.
Oh, I like that. That's a good metaphor.
Yeah. I have a way of always relating things back to money.
Yeah, so it's good. It's we can apply it in both areas then, right? Personal development and financial growth.
Yep.
Is there anything else you'd want someone to know? Somebody who's where you were a year ago, or
there's another side. There is the other side of this.
Yeah.
Like when you're in the muck of it, it's gonna suck. There's nothing you can really do about it sucking. Like I said, there's a process. You have to go through the process. The more you resist, the harder it gets, or the harder it is to get through. But there is another side. Your path is going to be different, but your experience is going to be very similar to everyone else. And you will get through. And as long as you believe that, you will.
Yeah, I think that's amazing advice. It's hard to do when you're in it to believe. But I think you have choices, right? You can either believe it, or you can just keep showing up as if you believed it and do the work. And eventually you'll get there.
Yeah.
Carol, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time and coming
Absolutely.
and sharing some of your story.
Absolutely.
If you found this video helpful, then you have to check out my free masterclass, How to Take Back Control of Your Life After Divorce. In that hour-long masterclass, I go into way more detail than I can cover on these YouTube videos about how specifically to start to heal, to stop the painful emotions, regain your confidence, and take back control of your future. I break it down into steps and give you a lot of actionable items that you can start using right now today to start feeling better. You'll find the link in the video description below under free masterclass, How to Take Back Control of Your Life After Divorce. I hope to see you on the masterclass and in the next video here on YouTube. Thanks for watching.